Hello. June. It was a month, wasn't it? And I read stuff during it. So let's talk about what I read, shall we? You guys believe it? I've been doing this as long as I have, and I still get nervous every time I turn on the camera. Okay. First thing I finished in the month of June was Pin, written by Andrew Niederman and published in 1981. So I read this with Chris from Liminal Spaces and Virgil from Literally Books for our Secret Society Read, which is taking place on Literally Books channel. I'll link it below, where we read like a horror book once every month or so and discuss it in very great detail and kind of break it down, do a deep dive on it. So the first one we did was Pin. I had wanted to read Pin for a long time. I knew it existed, I think because of the movie, which I had never seen, but I have now. And we also did a video discussing that on Literally Books channel. Pin is I've read one Andrew Niederman book before this, and that was The Immortals. That was The Immortals, which I liked, and it was wild and wacky and fast-paced. This has a different tone to it, but it is equally wild. So this one is about a brother and sister who are raised by this doctor, and they basically have an imaginary friend in the form of this anatomical doll that their father uses for his work. Throughout the book, and even more so the movie, you kind of wonder, is this doll really alive, or is it... but, I don't think it's a spoiler in saying, no, it's these kids are messed up. And this book talks a lot about trauma, real life themes of trauma, and how people deal with that, and how people raised in the same household might deal with that differently. It talks about a lot of very heavy topics, and there's some fairly intense, troubling stuff in here, but it's handled really well. It is an expertly crafted psychological thriller. I think horror, I don't know that I'd call it horror necessarily, maybe on the edge of horror, but definitely really, really well written, well done, readable, very readable psychological thriller bordering on horror. And I really, really love this book. And as I said, if you watched our Pin deep dive, that I really liked the book. And then after we broke it down and discussed it, all of us tossing our ideas around, I came to, I think, love the book. I came to appreciate it a lot more. So I think I would give this one a 4.5 out of 5. So really good stuff. Read that if it sounds interesting to you. It's definitely not for everyone, but... The second book I finished was The Chrysalids by John Wyndham, published in 1955. So this is like more of a classic science fiction book. I had never read any John Wyndham before. And I read this because of the channel Sci-Fi Finds. Jack over at Sci-Fi Finds talked about this book, and I was like, oh, mutants. Sweet. Like, that was it. He said the word mutants, and I was like, nice, mutants. So I read it, and I will say that I think I liked it more than even Jack did. Which you should go check out his channel. It's cool if you like sci-fi books. And he influenced me to read a book, so he's a genuine, bona fide influencer. So The Chrysalids is about a future Earth. Namely, I think this takes place in Labrador, Canada, or what Labrador, Canada area. It's not called that in the future. I don't remember what it's called, but it's kind of like a post-apocalyptic society in which technology has broken down and we're living in more primitive times, and there is this religion that rules everything, and any creature, any living creature that is born with some sort of abnormality, be it like you're missing an arm or something just really, really minor, like maybe your nose is weird or something, like everything should be in the exact precise image of God. And if it is not, it's an aberration or a mutant or whatever, and it should be like killed, basically. If it's an animal, like a cow with two heads, or if it's a crop and it doesn't look exactly right. And these are just this is the world people live in. And in the beginning of this book, there's this boy, and he is befriending this girl, and he comes to find has like a sixth toe, but he doesn't care because she's his friend. And so the first part of the book kind of takes place establishing this world, establishing these characters, and then the second part of the book, he's older, and they're discovering that there's sort of this like latent psychic ability in some people, and they're wondering, is this considered an aberration, or is this a good thing? Is this an evolution beyond, or maybe not having this is considered the aberration? And they start learning of other that there might be other people in the world. And I really, really, really like the writing in this. This is my first John Wyndham, and I will definitely read more. He's just an excellent storyteller, and the prose is well done. I think better written than a lot of sci-fi from this era that I've read. It feels very lyrical and poetic and beautiful, while still being very simple and readable. Like I said, excellent characters, excellent storytelling, and I really, really liked where this one went. I liked everything about this. I kind of loved it, actually. So I think this one was a 4.5 out of 5 for me. The next one I read, or didn't read, I listened to it, was Shambleau by C.L. Moore, published in 1933. Nick at the Book Graveyard posted a video in which he has a record of this short story or novella, which is read by C.L. Moore herself, and he posted the full thing on his channel. And so I listened to that. It was really fun. This is a novella. I believe it is the first, or maybe it's a fix-up, I don't remember. I think it's the first Northwest Smith story, who I believe was the inspiration for Han Solo as a character, and he's kind of this space traveling badass dude. And in this, he encounters this creature with this woman on the run, with this Shambleau, with like, or Shambleau, as Nick says. I think he's wrong. But it's fun. It's like adventure, but in space. And I don't know what to say about it, but I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I definitely want to read some more C.L. Moore. This is probably a 4 out of 5 for me. And I think that the version he posted is abridged, but I did some research, and I think it's only abridged in terms of the foreword that was written about it, or the little essay that precedes it. I don't think the actual story is abridged, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. But yeah, it was good. I liked it. And like I said, it's a novella. I don't want to say too much about it and give anything away, but it was good. Next thing I read was another Goosebumps, number 35, A Shocker on Shock Street by R.L. Stine, published in 1995. I had never read this one as a kid. I didn't even own it. I remember seeing the picture with a grasshopper? Can't remember now. Giant grasshopper on the front, or giant praying mantis on the front, and thinking it looked cool. I did not know until I read it just recently that this is about movies, and a movie, they're on a movie set basically, and one of the kids' parents works there and has developed this ride when people can come tour the studio lot, which will take them through the sets of these famous horror movies. And so these kids go on this ride, and it seems to be actually bad instead of just pretend bad. This one was fine. I liked it. Okay, it's not like I said, not top tier Goosebumps, not bottom tier Goosebumps. It's fine. 3 probably for me. Maybe 3.5 because it does get kind of fun at the end, but I'll probably go 3 out of 5. Next, I read a little book by a good buddy of the channel in this area of BookTube. He's got his own channel as well. You should go check it out. It's The Outlaw Levi Wallace. And his book is The Sunken Door by Levi Wallace, or by the Outlaw Levi Wallace, as it says on Goodreads, published in 2024. So I read this of my own accord, just because I was curious. And I come to find out that apparently a lot of people had been reading it because they kind of like ambushed Levi on the Eves episode to kind of pick his brain about it and talk about it, which was fun. That was a good episode, and you should check that out as well. I'll link it if I remember. I've said I'll link it like 6 times, so maybe I'll forget some of these things. But yeah, so this was good. I liked it. The story is basically about this woman who gets this mystical snake tattoo kind of like on her. Like, she doesn't go get a tattoo, but she gets it on her, and it like moves around her body, which creates some really cool visuals. And I believe the snake is like tied to some sort of mythical evil or god or whatever. And there is this group who has been trying to fight the snake for generations. And then there's also this group of kids who become involved. And there's this like door to another dimension that these kids find, and all of this kind of becomes entangled in the story. And so I like how Levi writes a lot of the characters. They felt like clearly they're young adult characters, but they felt very like edgy and real, like real kids, not even kids, but teenagers, I guess. I liked how he wrote a lot of the sort of more horror scenes, because there are some scary scenes. There's some pretty intense stuff, blood and gore, and a lot of fun. I got a little confused in some parts, but I don't think that's Levi's fault. I think it's my fault, because I started reading this when I was on a boat, and I had put a patch to make myself not get seasick, which apparently one of the side effects is dizziness, which is insanity. Why would the side effect be the thing I'm trying to get rid of? Anyways, I started to read it on my phone while I'm on this boat, like, so if I got confused, that's probably on me. There were some grammatical and spelling errors, as other people have joked about, but I don't care about that. I think he said he's going to go in and fix them anyways. But all in all, I think he's a good writer, and it's well done, especially for a first book. I really enjoyed the story. I think in the Eves they compared it to like a sort of Stephen King Kids on Bikes coming of age, or like a Robert McCammon Boy's Life kind of thing, and I definitely got a lot of that out of it as well. Yeah, it was good. I think some of the supernatural stuff was a little ethereal for me, for my own personal taste. Not that it didn't work for the story, but I liked it. I would say 3.5 out of 5. And I hope Levi doesn't hate me now for not giving him a 5. But no, it's good. I would definitely read more from Levi. The next one that I read was Trailsman number 49, The Swamp Slayers by John Sharp, published in 1986. So Tim from Secret Fire Books sent me a whole bunch of Trailsman books, which is an adult Western series written by John Sharp, which is a pen name for John Messman. And I picked one at random because it was June on the Range, and I felt that was an appropriate time to read one of my new Trailsman books. And if you'll see on the cover, wherever I put it up here, there's an alligator. There's this giant swamp beast that looks like Sloth from the Goonies. And that was enough for me. And it's called The Swamp Slayers. So that's why I grabbed it. And this book, this book is insane. It's a masterpiece, really, in the trashiest way possible. So this book has scenes that felt like a horror movie, where this guy, Sky Fargo, your main character, is in this torrential downpour in this bayou, and there's this like gothic looking mansion. He goes inside the storm cellar to get out of the storm. And inside there's like the guy on the cover, this like bald beast like man in swamp person clothes, and there's this like hot lady with a shotgun, and they're like chaining him up in the basement, and crazy. And then there are, of course, these ridiculous sex scenes. I think there's only 3 in the whole book, but they're pretty graphic. Out of nowhere, that he seems to every woman he meets. And then there's like these like serial killer midgets, and then he like fights an alligator. I mean, this book was insane. Absolute pulpy trash, but so much fun. Yeah, I know Tim read one recently and he hated it, and that's such a shame, because this was outrageous in the best way. I mean, it's pure trash, but so much fun. If most of them are like this, I think I'm gonna be a fan. This was a 4 out of 5. Next up, I read The Locked Room, which is Shivers No. 5 by M.D. Spencer, published in 1996. This was like a Goosebumps knockoff series. I think they were actually sold at the Dollar Tree in the 90s. And I've been reading my way through them, and I've been reading them into a microphone and making little bootleg audiobooks kind of just for fun. So the first 5 are up on my channel now. 2 of them I've enjoyed, and the other ones have been kind of, like not bad, just kind of bland, kind of boring, a little juvenile. I think this one falls somewhere in between the ones I liked and the ones I didn't like. It's just kind of in the middle, but a little better than those really boring ones. This one is about some kids whose mom is dating this guy, and they move out to this house in the country, and they don't like the guy very much, and they think the house is creepy, and there's this sort of passageway in their attic, and they're trying to find out where it goes. It was okay. I liked other entries more. As I said, it's not the best middle grade horror that I've read, but it's not terrible. Probably a 3 out of 5 for me. Pretty, it's fine. Sorry. Next one that I read was Executioner No. 5, Continental Contract by Don Pendleton. I'm not going to read you the published date because Goodreads is telling me it's 2014, and I think that's on like a different edition because that's not correct. But there are like over 500, I think, straight up executioners, not counting the hundreds of Mac Bolan books, not counting the spin-off series like Able Team and Phoenix Force. And you could read more Mac Bolan books. You could just read Mac Bolan the rest of your life, and you probably wouldn't read them all. But knowing that, the first 38, I believe, or 37 are written by Don Pendleton, and then it became a house name in which many writers contributed. And so I wanted to at least start from the beginning and kind of get a taste of what the original series was written like and what the original Mac Bolan books were like. Obviously, I never intended on reading through all 600, 700, whatever, in order. That'd be insane. But I have now read the first 5. I liked the first one. Second one I thought sucked. Third one was pretty good. Fourth one was kind of boring. So fifth one was another pretty good one. I like this. It gets Mac Bolan out of America. He goes to Paris and kind of fights the mafia in Paris. There is some fun twists that involve him kind of taking the identity of a famous American actor, and this was a good one. This was a fun executioner novel. That being said, I think this is where I've reached my point where I'm going to stop doing them in order, because while they've been a bit of a mixed bag and I've enjoyed some and not enjoyed others, I do think on the whole, so far, I'm not in love with any of them. They're good. And I think I've got a decent taste of what the original Don Pendleton books were like. So I think next time I read an executioner book, it might be number 92, it might be number 462, it might be a Super Bowlin. I'll probably just pick up whatever now that I kind of have an understanding of how the series started. So book 5, this was a pretty good one. I think 3.5 out of 5 for me. Yeah, I think 3.5. I mean, it was good. It was better than some of the others for sure. The next one that I read was The Client by Kat Goss, published in May of 2025. So this is a pretty new one. I was contacted on Instagram by the author. She said she liked my Instagram channel and wanted to know if I wanted an ebook copy of this one. And she didn't even ask for, that's work. Sorry, where was I? That was my job. Yeah, so the author reached out to me on Instagram and asked if I would like an ebook copy, and she said, like, no, she was like, you don't even have to review it if you want. She was like, thought I'd give it to you. So, yeah, so I was happy to review it because it sounded good, and I was happy to read it. So this book, my mind is all torn from the task. This book is a psychological thriller about this woman who lives somewhere in the UK, and she has recently become married to this guy, and they're kind of trying to start their marriage out, and through an unfortunate circumstance, they've had to move into this very small cottage because while he has a good job as a film editor, she is a freelance editor of books and or of blog posts or anything people send to her. She's just like a content editor and grammatical editor. And I guess over the years, there's been this client who she just knows his name is Alan, and he sends her sort of travelogue stuff. She's not really sure what the purpose of it is. It appears as though none of it has been published. So it might just be some guy who wants his stuff, his personal writings edited. She's not sure, but he pays really well, and he consistently sends her stuff. And so over the years that she's been working with this client, she's kind of just sort of slacked off on building up a diverse resume or a diverse client base, because he consistently sends her stuff, he consistently pays her well, and around the time she gets married, he just disappears, stops responding, stops sending her work, and so aside from a few jobs here and there that pay a little bit of money, she's essentially out of work. And so it's all about how she's trying to cope with this, with her new marriage, and find work, and kind of starts to wonder what happened to this client, what happened to this guy, until she gets an email from this guy's wife who is he's gone missing. Is there any information you have on him? I know you guys communicate a lot through email, which kind of opens up this mystery about who this guy was and where he went and what it has to do with her. It was well written, well plotted, and I really, really liked how it ended. I have nothing but good things to say about it, honestly. The only problem I had is that I predicted the dealio very early on, which is a bummer. But I don't think I should quite fault the book for that, because maybe you wouldn't predict it. But I did. So yeah, I think on the whole, 3.5 out of 5 for me. I would probably give it a 4 if I hadn't predicted what was going on. But it's well written, well plotted, enjoyable read. If that is the kind of book you're into, you should check it out. Yeah, 3.5 out of 5. And after that, the last one that I read was one that I was bullied into reading by Chris from Liminal Spaces and Virgil from Literally Books, which is fine. I'm happy that I was bullied into it because Chris had been reading it because Virgil read it and talked about it on his channel a while back, and this is 2 novellas in here, and Chris talked about the first novella on his channel a while ago and finally read the second novella and wanted to talk about that, but since this is more of a horror book, he was like, maybe we can talk about it with the society, with our little horror group. He was like, Brian, you just have to read it if you want to join in on the conversation. And I was kind of like, well, I have a lot of stuff I want to read, but I wound up getting to it, and we still haven't discussed it, but I assume we're going to. God, sorry. But this is from the 80s. Did I not say? I didn't even say what it is. When Darkness Loves Us by Elizabeth Engstrom, published in 1985. This was in, I think it was Pictured in Paperbacks from Hell, and it got the Valancourt reissue. And from what I understand, Elizabeth Engstrom worked some job in Hawaii and wound up taking a class or something, like a writing class with Theodore Sturgeon, the sci-fi writer, and these 2 novellas were her first work, and she was heavily encouraged by Theodore Sturgeon to attempt to get them published and get them published together. I didn't read too much into that, but that is the general story behind it as I understand it. The first novella follows this woman who kind of goes down into this like storm cellar sort of thing on the back of her property, and they live in farmland, and when she goes down in there, there's like a hole in the wall that leads to this like cave system, and she goes in there to like scare her husband who is mowing the fields, and she's like hiding in there, and he's like, oh, like, who locked this? Or who, like, I don't want my kids falling here. And he like closes it and locks it. And she's like, that's a problem. And so they never come back to find her, I guess. And the way that she survives is going deep into this cave system and like eating slugs, and it's wild. But the interesting part about this is that it doesn't go quite the way you might think it does. It goes and goes and goes and becomes this like saga that spans so many years, and becomes almost like a soap opera with the level of insanity that it achieves. I love stories in caves. I was on Literally Liminal on Liminal Spaces channel, which is where this was brought up, and they said, oh, this book that we've been bullying you to read has a cave, it takes place in a cave. And I said, oh, okay, I'll read it now. I really liked this first story. I liked it a lot, actually. It's great. It's well worth reading. The second novella in here is about this woman who is sort of mentally stunted and also facially disfigured. And we're kind of seeing this town she lives in through her eyes and her interactions with the people in the town. And there's flashbacks to her parents and sort of what happened to her. I thought it was well written and interesting. I don't quite know that I understand the point. Like, all of these ideas didn't really coalesce in a way that felt entirely satisfying to me. I didn't quite get what it was trying to say, which is a shame, because I think there are aspects to the story that are really well done, and I think if she had tied it together a little better, I might have enjoyed it more. So I definitely saw this one as the lesser of the two stories. But yeah, I think on the whole, this is a very good book. it's hard to rate, because like I think I would give the first one 4 stars and maybe the second one 3 stars. So I guess that puts it at a 3.5, right? As a whole. I don't know. But yeah, that was my month. That was the month of June. Oh, I did read a graphic novel, which I don't have. Usually I just hold that up, but I sent it to someone else. And that was for the Rogue Angel series, which I have talked about those books before. Somewhere around book 7 or 8, IDW made a 6-issue mini, what do they call those? Mini series, whatever. I don't know. Limited series of Rogue Angel. And I think it was good. I liked it. And it, I think, kind of goes over the first book, which you can read the Rogue Angel books in any order, but I do think that if you're going to read any of them, you should read the first one first, because it kind of establishes how she becomes what she is. And so this graphic novel, I think, is also a good place to start, because it establishes her backstory, and then you have this fun adventure. And it really works really well as a comic, and it's a shame that they only made those 6 issues, because I thought it was pretty fun. I also read some short stories, because I said I've been trying to read more short stories, and I don't know. I don't think I'm going to talk about them now, because maybe I'll do a video. Maybe. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got to talk about for today. All right, guys. Have you read any of these? Did you like them? Do you want to talk about them? Do you hate them? Let me know. Later.